And he says, no, Kim, I've still got that wheat. I said, why didn't you sell it? He, he said, they said it was going to 10.
This morning, it's the power of having a plan on the AgNow Roundup, which starts now. Well, good morning and welcome to the AgNow Roundup. My name is Dave Deacon. There's no doubt that farming and ranching is a business. Crops require an investment even before planting them and well into the growing season, with the hopes of making a profit at harvest. This morning, we're learning about the importance of running the numbers and making a plan before the seeds even go into the ground from an old friend of mine, grain marketing specialist Dr. Kim Anderson with Oklahoma State University Extension. But first, here's a look at the weather around the Ag Nation from meteorologist Matt Makins.
It is time now for the AgNow weather report. Obviously a different setting this time. I'm traveling in Alberta, up in Calgary for a beef conference, and actually had really nice weather for the conference. Sunny today, but we'll see how the flight does tomorrow because things are looking snowy. Enough about that. That doesn't really matter, right? As we look at the situation from the ag industry, I assume most of all of us have heard about the wildfires now in Texas and Oklahoma, and that massive, more than 1 million acres burned is just a staggering number. This is an area that received a lot of precip, or I say a good amount of precip anyway. Last summer, grasses grew. We had some late fall, some winter moisture here and there, but it's become less frequent. In El Nino events, January into parts of February can be rather dry for this area. In my PRF clients, a lot of them saw the bar for dry probabilities increase. May not make sense from an El Nino standpoint when we think it's got to be wet all the time. That doesn't really happen until we hit March and April, and then that's when we start to see those chances increase for moisture again. So we'll start off there. Let's look at the storm flow first off. And the animation will walk you through the next 10 days, and it will show you where areas of rain and snow are. Early in some of the frames, you'll notice there is some moisture that had been moving through Texas into Oklahoma from early Thursday, midday Thursday into late Thursday, but it weakens as that area of moisture moves to the east. But it is moisture, and hopefully it has helped with the fires. We'll see as we get into Friday and Saturday how that has changed the situation there. In terms of other areas of note, a lot of inundation along the coastline, the west coast, a lot of moisture there, a lot of precip. Some heavy snows will be spreading into the Cascades, the Sierras, Wasatch, into parts of the Rockies as well. Before we get to snow, let's chat about just total precip. And you will see some areas of precip, most notably west coast, which has been the case the last several AgNow weather reports, and for the southeastern U.S. up to the kind of the east. These areas are still favored for water, and these are very similar orientation-wise anyway, maps to what I've shown you the last several episodes. We still have most of the water in those areas, just a little bit of water down by the fire areas. So southern plains still battling some drought, some tall brush, which is dormant for winter. We need that water to help subside the current wildfire and hopefully prevent new ones. Along those lines, however, we still have wind. So we'll transition into the wind graphic. And this is merely showing you the probability of winds hitting at least 40 miles per hour. And this map view zoomed into the southern plains, central Rockies, southern Rockies, and it's notable. Strong winds. Obviously not good from a fire standpoint. And the other side of that too is strong winds dry us out fast. We don't have a lot of water to fall in a lot of these areas. So we're already dry, dormant brush, dormant grasses. So we need some water, or at least to get into the growing season to green things up. And we're still a bit of time away from that. As far as the snowfall on the way, perhaps you're calving. I know we're about midway through in Colorado and southern Wyoming from some of the producers I've chatted with recently. And you can see some snow chances here. Most notably, keep an eye on next Monday for snow in the Rocky Mountain region from, say, Colorado Springs and Denver up to Cheyenne and Laramie. Watch out for those areas and expand that area from those cities out toward the panhandle of Nebraska and Kansas. We'll see how wet the system is and how cold, but that could be a potential impactor to calving there. And I'll just leave you with a couple of different maps. It'll be weekly chunks for the next month. So 4 panels of temperatures showing you the temperature outlook on average for each of the week listed. So week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll transition that into precipitation. What are we looking at kind of week by week as we go throughout March? And you'll see some very favored areas of precip, and you'll also see some dry areas. But we'll also be tracking some cold too, especially west, southwest, potentially throughout Canada as well. So spring calving, we'll have some concerns there. So make sure you keep your eye here on AgNow Weather, and we'll keep you posted the best we can. Until the next time, Matt Makins.
Well, thank you, Matt. To the casual observer, farming may look like a hobby. You plant a seed, you wait for the rain, and then you drive around in a side-by-side from time to time looking for weeds. Then you wait for harvest. Now, to the farmer, producing a crop is a business. And with any business, you have to have a business plan. And to help us understand the importance of having a plan for a crop, we have Oklahoma State University Extension's Dr. Kim Anderson. Thank you so much for going on with us, Dr. Anderson. Let's start with the basics. Why is it essential to have a marketing plan for a crop?
I think when you're talking about marketing, when you're thinking about marketing, a strategy, if it's done right, will allow you to sleep at night. The way to almost guarantee a mistake is to try to do something you're uncomfortable with. And when you lose sleep, it may not impact your marketing, but it's going to impact other ways. You're going to leave the gate open, the cows are going to get out. You're going to leave the gate open and they're going to get into feeding stuff they're not supposed to. When you can't sleep at night, you have a tendency to make mistakes in just about everything you do.
And in some ways, whenever you do build that strategy and that marketing plan, it kind of takes the emotion out of selling and actually making a profit out off the crop that you plant.
Okay, well, let's back up just a little bit and talk about selling. A producer has no control about what prices are going to do. And anybody that tells you they can predict prices, they're either naive or they're lying through their teeth. Now, can we predict to a certain degree cycles? Yes, we can. And trends, they give us some strength there. But you never know when the top's going to be. You never know when the bottom's going to be. And let me put it to you this way. What makes today's price different than yesterday's price? What do the big market players use to determine whether they're going to buy or they're going to sell? They use information, and they get information from all over the world, and they pay millions of dollars a year for that information, and they use information to make a profit. So what makes today's price different than yesterday's price is new information. And if you believe that scenario, then by definition, you cannot predict prices.
Whenever it comes to thinking about those future prices, what should a producer do whenever they are penciling out a crop? Say soybeans, say corn, say alfalfa production?
Okay, now, so let's go back to the marketing versus sell. What you market is land, labor, capital, and management. What you sell is your corn, your soybeans, your cotton, your wheat, your cattle, or whatever it is. Now, let's go to the marketing plan. What you're going to do there is you're going to make a plan that you can live with. You're going to make a plan that allows you to sleep at night, and you're going to make a plan based on history. All commodities in every area have a tendency to peak around the same time every year. And if you look at those price patterns, then you can sell into those price patterns. Another thing, with the large volatility we have in prices now in all commodities, it's extremely important that you stagger across time. You don't sell or buy it all at once. You dollar cost average. in your investments, in your buying, in your selling. You need a dollar cost average because you cannot predict price.
So back to one of my previous questions, does that take the emotion out of it whenever you do have that plan?
Oh, yes, you want a mechanical strategy, and not when you make your marketing strategy, you've looked at historical prices. And remember, let's define strategy and plans.
Okay.
A strategy is you've got an objective, and it's a general statement of what you're going to do. Then you've got to have plan A, B, C, and D. If this happens, then I'm going to do that. I think you need to set a target price and a target date. In other words, let's say right now I've got 20,000 bushels of corn in the bin. It's late February, early March, and the price of corn is, say, $4.20. All right, I'm going to make a plan that if that price hits $4.40, I'm going to sell 5,000 bushels. Or if the date hits March 16th, I'm going to sell 5,000 bushels. And then I'm going to schedule out the next 5,000, the next 5,000, and the next 5,000. And I'll set a target date and a target price. And if I hit either one of those, whichever one I hit first, I'm going to pull the trigger. Now, that's one suggestion for a marketing plan, and it's totally and completely mechanical.
Let's work backwards from harvest. How do we determine how much we actually need to make to break even on a crop? Wheat's in the ground right now, corn and soybeans. Like I say, I go back to them, but also cotton. There's different inputs for each crop. How do we make that determination that I need $5 a bushel for wheat?
I'm thinking right now so that I can say it, because it's contrary to what most people think. Mm-hmm. I think it's extremely important that you know how much cost you have in a bushel or a pound of product or a ton of product, whatever you're producing. You've got to know your cost. However, the market cares less. The market cares nothing about what it costs you. And there's times that you may not be able to cover that cost, and you still got to pull the trigger and have that mechanical strategy. You've got to know the cost of each commodity or potential commodity so that you can market what you have control of, and that's your land, labor, capital, and management. You got to use those four assets to produce a commodity that's going to give you the greatest odds of making a profit. And that's the importance of cost, is allocating and marketing those resources you can control. When you get to price, you're at the mercy of the market. Now, I was working with a big, large vegetable producer. They were concerned about price. I told them, if you will produce a product, a quality product that the market wants, the market will give you a profit for it. If you don't produce a commodity that the market wants and it's not of quality, then they're not going to give you a price. But if the market needs your product, they're going to pay you for it, and you'll make a profit producing it. So I think that's where costs come in, is determining how to allocate that land, labor, capital, and management. When you get the commodity in hand, it's all about price. You have no control of the price. I think the market's going to give you a profit if it wants that product.
Speaking of vegetables, made me think of this. There are some commodities that are forward contracted. Kind of explain what that means and what a producer should be thinking about if they are approached as far as contracting one of their commodities.
Well, producers have yield risk and price risk. And in most commodities, yield risk is greater than price risk. I did a research project once on wheat. If you can't forward contract, or you probably shouldn't forward contract over 50% of your expected production, because if you forward contract more than you produce, the odds are production's down and prices went up, and you're going to have to buy the commodity to make up that difference in your contract of
Right.
what you have and what you need, you're supposed to, and what you have to deliver. So if you forward contract, in other words, promise to deliver 20 tons of wheat for $5.50 a bushel by July the 15th, by crackers, you got to have that product there. And if you don't have it, you got to buy it from that elevator or that broker to make up that difference for what? If you year in out, if you forward contract or hedge 50% of your expected production, on the average, you will protect about 20% of your price risk. Not very much. My philosophy is, and it's just my philosophy is, now April, like for wheat, April's often a good time to price some product. However, my data shows that the best time to sell wheat in Oklahoma is June, July, and August, and that you want to stagger it across time over those 3 months. And irrespective of what the price is, whether it's $10 or whether it's $3.50, it's best to sell it in those months. Some years you're going to sell well below average, but on the average over time, selling in June, July, and August, staggering it across those 3 months, you're going to have an above average price over time. Now, what we haven't talked about there is the weighted average over time, because normally you have good prices, you have lower yields. And so there's some correlation between price and yield. But if it's mechanical and it's timing, then it tends to work well over time.
In some respects, it's almost worth stepping away from the price updates, the elevator markets, all of that, for the producer just to, casually be listening, but don't dive into it and sort through all the numbers, because it does fluctuate so much, even from report to report.
Okay, I've been in this business going on, in August it will have been 42 years. Mm-hmm. Now, back in about 1988, I came up with a statement and I said, one of the biggest mistakes you'll make is listening to market outlook economists.
And that's what you do, right?
And that's what they paid me to do for almost 42 years. However, you have to have a predicted price right now. Right now, if you've got open land and you're going to plant a summer crop in it, are you going to plant sesame? Are you going to plant corn? Are you going to plant sorghum? Are you going to plant soybeans? Are you going to plant cotton? Every one of those, you've got to have a price to pencil out which one's going to have the highest odds of a profit. You got to have a predicted price. Mm-hmm. So I say we can't predict prices accurately. I don't think we can predict them accurately enough once you get the product, but we can hit them within a range of prices. I've got a wheat table here, and it shows for Oklahoma monthly average wheat prices from 2009 through 2023. And then on the bottom row there, it's got the 15-year average, the 10-year average, and the 5-year average. But if you look at those prices, and like in June, out of those 15 years, you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them as the highest in June, 2 of them in July, and 3 of them in August. And then you can go out the rest of the year. But if you look down to the bottom on that 15-year average, you got 588 June, 584 July, and 583 August. And then you go to September throughout, it goes down to 560 and then all the way down to 543 for an average. It's clear to see that the single best time, if you can't predict prices, is June, July, and August. Now, another thing you can look at is June, July, and August, what the average price was each year and what the price range was. So let's just take 2023. for 23, for this last wheat harvest, your average June, July, and August price was $7.44. Your lowest price was $6.55, and your highest $8.49. That was $1.94 spread in prices over those 3 months. On the average for those 15 years, your average price was $5.83. Your minimum was $2.55. Your high was $11.15, and the average range of prices during June, July, and August from the bottom to the top was $1.83. Now tell me, even in that 3-month period within any year, and like in 1 year, in 2022, you had a $3.40 price range from the low to the high in just June, July, and August. So how are you going to sell your commodity in a market like that? If you can't predict prices, and I've tried, if you can't predict prices, well, you dollar cost average, you're going to sell it over time. Now, if you get, you know your cost of production, you know how much money you got to have for a living and get it in the bank, and the market offers it to you, take it. I had a producer call me, Jiminy Christmas, 15, 20 years ago. He says, Kim, the prices had been up to just above $9, and he didn't sell. He said, Kim, what's the odds of prices going back to $9? I said, Jiminy Christmas, maybe 15 or 20%. He says, well, if they go above $9, I can replace my 1984 equipment. And he held his crop. And I watched that market, and it got above $9 for 3 days in October. And I didn't hear from him. And I called him, and he says, no, Kim, I've still got that wheat. I said, why didn't you sell it? He said, they said it was going to 10.
Oh.
Now, Jimmy, if you've got a target at $9, he can replace his equipment. He's got his debts paid. He's got living expenses, and he gets $9. Jiminy Christmas, pull the trigger.
Right.
Discipline. We haven't talked about discipline. You make a plan, and you have the discipline to follow it. Some years, it's gonna bite you. It's gonna bite you. It's just not gonna work. But over time, like that wheat selling in June, July, and August, over time, and you can say, which one of those months should I sell in? All 3 of them, because you don't know which month it's going to. You just don't know if that price is going down. Write it down. You develop a plan, but you write. It's got to be written down.
Yeah.
Because if you're like me, if you don't write it down, I can always waffle on what my plan really was, or I'll have less discipline to follow it. When I graduated with my PhD, my first job was at the University of Kentucky, and I was making $24,000 a year. And I got a newsletter from Doan's, and they said, if you will make an objective and write it down, it increases the odds dramatically that plan will work. I said, okay, I'm going to increase my salary by 50% in 3 years. That means in 3 years, I'm going to be making $36,000. In 2.5 years, Oklahoma State University wanted to hire me. And you know what they offered me? $36,000. Now, I had to have a plan how I was going to get that, how I was going to get an offer. I had to develop a regional and national reputation relatively quick. I planned out what I had to do to do it, but write it down increases the odds.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kim Anderson, for imparting that wisdom on us and helping us realize the importance of building a plan and sticking with it and writing it down.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dave.
And of course, thank you for watching this episode of the AgNow Roundup. If there's something on the show that you'd like to learn more about, visit our website, agnowtv.com. And while you're there, sign up for our social media, sign up for the email. You can even download the AgNow app, all from links at agnowtv.com. From our farm to your farm, I'm Dave Deacon for AgNow.